New York Attorney General Letitia James's fraud case against Donald Trump is on hold for now. According to CNN, lawyers for the former president, his son Don Jr., and the Trump Organization requested the judge to slow down the civil trial, which is set to begin next month.
They made the ask while the judge presiding over the case, Judge Arthur Engoron, resolves a statute of limitations issue. Trump's legal team argues that some of the real estate transactions in question in the AG's $250 million fraud case are simply too old to be considered. In a statement about the pause, James wrote, quote, "We are confident in our case and will be ready for trial." Meanwhile, Fulton County's District Attorney Fani Willis on Wednesday insisted former President Trump and all of his co-defendants in the 2020 election interference case be tried together in October, but that request was denied. Fulton County Superior Court Judge Scott McAfee wrote in an order, quote, "The court joins the skepticism expressed by several federal courts that denying severance always ensures efficiency, especially in mega trials such as this." Our rising panel is back with us to weigh in. Former Trump White House Associate Counsel and Vice President at Restoring Integrity and Trust in Elections, Mae Mailman, and former Biden White House aide and Democratic strategist Michael LaRosa. They both join us now. Welcome to you both. May, I'll start with you on the question of the timing of these trials. Obviously, Trump is having to prepare a defense in 4 different indictment cases now. So how is his team getting along with trying to argue for the delaying on several of these cases to make sure that he has time to prepare?
Yeah, so on the Georgia case, I think an October trial date was, even the judge in Georgia basically laughed when the request came in to try all 19 co-defendants together. Even just the investigation, getting the grand jury has taken several years. They weren't bringing that before the grand jury the entire time. But to say that now we're going to kind of ram this through in October was always going to be unrealistic. When is that trial actually going to land? I don't know. Will there be extensions? Probably once it lands. Maybe there's going to be a lot of pretrial motions. Even the trial dates that have been set, you have Sidney Powell being tried with Ken Chesebro. These people were involved in widely different aspects of what's being alleged here. You've got investigations into voting machines versus memos about stolen electors. So I can anticipate that they're not going to be happy about that, trying to separate their trial dates from each other. So I don't actually know when all this is going to land. I do think it's all going to be later than we expect, just the sheer number of documents, the sheer number of legal issues. But obviously, President Trump's lawyers are going to be working to push this till after the election. And I would expect that they're going to be successful on at least some of those trials.
This is a really unique political situation for the year leading up to the midterm election for President Biden. What do you make of this, Michael? We have a situation where Donald Trump is out on bail facing many indictments. I think over 90 is the total count. And then you have Biden, who's also serving in public office, still trying to get some of the policies that were on his electoral platform passed. What do you make of what the Biden administration is doing to message around the Trump trials? And what do you think we can expect from the administration in this year leading up to 2024?
Well, two different questions. I'll start with how they're reacting to the Trump legal drama. And I don't know if they are reacting very much. And frankly, I don't know if they need to. At this point, the cake is pretty baked on Donald Trump. The people who love him are going to keep loving him no matter what crimes he's accused of. It really won't matter. Frankly, he was impeached and people still voted for him. So I don't know if it's a good use of time to be messaging around all of Donald Trump's legal drama. The media is kind of taking care of that for them. And like I said, the numbers aren't really moving for Donald Trump, and they probably won't. The one thing we do know from the last 3 elections in 2018, 2020, and 2022 is that independents independent voters want nothing to do with the guy. So in that way, I also don't think that changes either. So I think the cake is baked. I think if it's a rematch, I think it's going to be extremely close, like it was last time. But given the data that we all have, and the patterns and trends that exist, it's hard to see an environment in which independents all of a sudden are attracted to Donald Trump, given that his crimes have just become, more apparent than they were when he was in the White House.
Yeah, what's your reaction, Michael, to the fact that Biden and Trump are basically sitting at the same approval rating, even as the media is hammering Trump about these indictments?
Not good. I mean, it's hard to argue with that, right?
Yeah.
I think James Carville was the one that said, like, there's no way getting around it. It's very concerning. It's a report card. But you know what? The grade that you get this week is not going to be the grade that you get a year from now. Look, it's going to come down to two people, two human beings. We both know that everybody knows who they are. The good news is there's not much to hide. Again, I don't think the dial really moves much from a political or electoral perspective, unless for some reason Trump is not the nominee. I think it will be worse for President Biden. I think he will have an uphill battle against anyone but Donald Trump.
May, there was a lot of pushback from folks on the Democratic side about the messaging around the 2020 election and how this would affect potential voter turnout in the future for folks who believe our electoral process is in shambles and the election was stolen. I kind of think that it will impact who turns out. Trump supporters for him in 2024 who now believe that the electoral process in the United States is not legitimate, is not valid. Do you foresee that turnout problem really affecting Trump's ability to win or get the vote either in the primary or in the general?
Well, the polling definitely shows what you're talking about. So as far as trust in the election outcome, you see, in general, Americans do trust it, but that's driven almost entirely by Democrats, 80, 90% trust levels versus for Republicans, something like 40 to 50%. So a huge, change in what people think about what's coming out of our elections. And there's kind of this crap in, crap out feeling that you have with our elections, where do we trust the mail? Do we trust signature matching? If so much is happening without poll watchers, how do we feel about that? These types of things. And so you can do one of two things. You can say, hey, President Trump, you need to stop messaging that it's bad, and that's going to help Republicans. Or you can do, you know what, actually, Americans do believe in voter ID at 88 to 90% rates, kind of depending on which poll you're looking at. Maybe we should implement some of these election integrity measures that people like, that are popular, and will help give people confidence in elections. So Republicans do have this problem, but I think it's a solvable problem that you could actually address with very popular, very reasonable measures that would basically bring elections in line with what kind of my experience was, what feels like yesterday, where you show up to the poll box, you present your ID, you vote, and you go home. Something as wild as that.
Yeah, we also see the Republican Party apparatus kind of embracing some of these mail-in vote type schemes and maybe even ballot harvesting to try to fight the new rules that were put in during COVID. We see the RNC with the Bank Your Vote program and the Virginia Republican Party with Secure Your Vote. So trying to, I guess, play with the new system, as it were. But we have to leave it there. Thank you both for joining us, May Mailman and Michael LaRosa. We'll see you again soon. More Rising after this.